Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I'm Dinar Triwulandari will presentation about interactional communication. The first is about expressive instrumental communication. At the transmission information, where is faster not an issue, as we have already mentioned. Through all communication involves interaction and possibility of an emotional response as all possible. However, one should not assume the culture of individuals will agree to when communication warrants active response. The second one is verbalization of emotion. Western society is predominantly verbal culture, yet there is great deal of difference regarding is to be verbalized. An abundance in British English expression like keep stiff upper lip by the toilet, big boys don't cry, self-control, and flying back. And number 3 is under or over statement. Modesty is form understatement whose full effect can only be attained through contextual implicator. Where the Swiss French ignore this orientation pillar, the British and Dutch will in general presume that the less said is better. Expressive culture such as the United States, on the other hand, tend to presume that everything could be said should be said. And expressing in other forms, and it's how you address someone strongly interactional and signals levels effectivity that may be or less appropriate across culture, as the following extract from Tom Wolfe's novel clearly shows. Like Peter Falls is at his desk, American Rush in New York. Like Wierzbicka suggests that each class or abbreviation characterizes of Italian at such desire. Next one is optimism and pessimism. We will consider the verbalization of optimism and pessimism as cultural trait. There is some evidence that suggests that a cultural orientation to individualism and equality is associated with a greater optimism. The next is direct and indirect communication. The notion of directness and indirectness and circularity cannot be distinguished. The array of frames what the communication orientation is that indirectness associated with conventional forms and politeness. That is considered type of communication at level of directness in the indirectness depends on difference between literal and intended meaning and the amount intending address need undertake. Cautioning. In linguistics, a direct request is called bold and record. The request may still be visible in the text, but may be softened, mitigated, or downgraded through the addition of linguistic caution, such as "I appreciate you if you could make Professor Riston have an accident." The request, when through high context, they will be not cautioned but will be off record. The English disease, indirectness, has frequently been associated with politeness, not only at an individual level but also at level cross-cultural comparison. Brown and Levinson call this of linguistic politeness negative politeness as opposite to positive politeness, where the presumption is that the relationship between participants is based on social solidarity and social closeness. And about cooperative maxim and miscommunication, H.P. Greaves was English philosopher of language, who also spends much of his working life in the United States. His well-known cooperative principle, which supposedly how people normally behave in conversation, actually reflect on his own LCC Miller. And LCC way thinking follows the logic something said. In English, floating the maxim of quality also common when part a counter-argument, citing an opponent thesis, rebutting this, substanting the point of rebuttal. The following sentence is particularly interesting example like lopsided counter-argument, when the counter-proposition is anticipated by using an explicit concessive. These Asian discourse systems are typically portrayed as ruled by the principle of politeness, indirectness, and modesty. Indeed, it's not difficult to find examples such as following, like this one, like China's President Xi Jinping speaking about in a summit. Like strength does not come from the muscular arms, but the unison of the heart. The action orientation. The action orientation can tend towards the action doing or towards state being. This being and doing orientation correspond to culture that are respectively. Highly doing-oriented cultures such as the United States and Germany have little problem separating fact from the personal feeling. They can criticize the action without necessarily an implication that the person's identity is under attack. All that is involved is the criticism of behavior. Procedural feature involvement tendency suggests that another orientation closely related to expressive or instrumental communication and directness in indirectness, which is high involvement, high considerateness, conversation patterns, use the term involvement and independence in similar way as a manifestation of different phase, system or types of politeness. Turn-taking is related to considerateness involvement dimension. Speakers send verbal or non-verbal signs to indicate to their interlocutors that their turn or point is complete. Interlocutors may also indicate to the current speaker that they would like to take over. Silence. While Western culture general are considered verbal, abhorring silence and the pregnant pause. For a number of cultures, silence may be valued much the same way expression by other cultures. And voice quality, are overall impression that a listener obtains a speaker prosody, including loudness and intonation patterns, is closely related to expressive and instrumental orientation. In general, a wider variety of tones will be deemed in a highly expressive culture. Nonverbal language is an essential part of the meaning. Interactional message is nonverbal. Nonverbal signals do not always have the same meaning across culture. Although there are some universal nonverbal signs for basic emotion, culture gives us rules and norms that link display the underlying meaning. Interactional communication is probably the most challenging and controversial type in terms of how language professionals are proceed to facilitate intercultural map reading. Interpreting in interactional settings, as in this case of business interpreting or community interpreting, involves particularly onerous tasks and debatable expectations. To combine matter, interpreters may not possess the intercultural competencies or enough information about their clients' communities of practice, not to mention the grounding about their clients or individuals. Interpreters develop cultural knowledge and intercultural communication skills in variety ways. However, the comprehensive and effective program is whatever the length of depth of intercultural experience. This cannot capture all the richness, diversity, and evolution of cultural practice, norms, values, and let alone individual idiosyncrasies. The translator and interpreter will therefore always, whether they know or without. Thanks for attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.